Now let's talk about some of the display options that we have when we're working in Mudbox. So there is a display item here in the top menu, and if we open that up, you can see that we have options down here for hiding and showing. So you can hide objects and show different objects. But we also have options for how we view the objects that we are seeing within our 3D view. So right now it's set to smooth shade, but if we want to, we can turn on flat lighting. So you can see all of the shading for that is turned off. We can also access this by going right-clicking and going to the marking menu here, and you can see flat lighting is turned on, but we can go ahead and turn that off to get back to our smooth shading. Okay, we also have the ability to turn on our wireframe. So again, right-click down to wireframe, and then we have the ability to see the wireframe on our particular model. Okay, we can turn that off. We can also turn off the lighting. So if we want to just view the silhouette of our model, we can quickly turn that lighting off. Some of these have hotkeys associated with them. You can see Control L, Shift L for the lighting, W for wireframe, and so forth. Okay, we also have the ability to show both sides of our model there. We can also change the background gradient, so we can, if we want to have a gradient or not, we can change that. Okay, we can also switch the views. So right click, go to switch view, and you can see we have perspective, and then we can also go to the top view, go to a side view, want to see a side view, okay, front view, and so forth. And then there's our perspective. Now if we want to add a camera bookmark, you can see we can add those. Okay, so we'll apply to current camera. Let's go ahead and add a new bookmark. We'll call this test. And so then as we move around, if we ever want to go back to that camera, we can just hit this bookmark. Okay, now we can also add lighting. So we have one light, always have to have one light in our scene. And right now we have this light over here on the side. If we select the light, we can choose to show manipulator. You can see that light down there. We can actually click and drag to rotate that directional light around. So if we want it to light up this side over here, we can move this light. If we want to lock it to the camera, we can choose this checkbox. And then whenever we rotate our camera around, it'll move with us. So if we lock this to the camera and move around, you can see, well, now this side is lit. And that's just because our light is going wherever our camera is going. So this is good if you want to be able to just model real quickly and see whatever it is that you're looking at with the light. If we unlock it from our camera and then move around to this side, you can see it's dark because the light is not associated with the camera. Okay, we can also show the light so we can see the direction that's pointing if we want to. Okay, we can change the intensity of our lights, change the color of our lights. Okay, now if we want to add a new light, we can go to Create, Lights, and there are three kinds of lights that we can create: a point light, a directional light, and an image-based light. So if we create a point light, you can see what that looks like, and that is good for some sort of interactive lighting in some cases. So you can see I can kind of move that around. Okay, we can also delete that light. If we want to create a new directional light, we can do that. Go ahead and create a new directional light. We'll select that one. This time we want to use it to view the other side of the model, so we can go ahead and put it over there on that side, unlock it from the camera, and now we have both sides of our model lit. If we take that directional light and give it kind of a blue color, make it a little bit brighter, you can see that's kind of a nighttime light there versus the warm light on the side. Okay, now when we start to create lights in here, we might think, well, why are we actually doing this? Because this is going to be rendered in another application. It's going to be either rendered in a film or in a game. The idea is that we want to have the environment that we're creating our characters or our models here in Mudbox. We want to have that environment as close as possible to the final environment, because if we start to sculpt a lot of detail and do a lot of painting on a model in this type of a light, but the only time it's going to be seen is in this kind of a light, then obviously we're not going to get a good idea of what that's actually going to look like. And they refer to this as on-target presentation. We want to make our environment here in Mudbox as close as possible to the environment that this model will finally appear in. Okay, so the lighting is part of that, creating lighting for that. So for that reason, we can go ahead and also add image-based lighting. So we can have an image-based light in here, and it's using this 3-point default. We can change the intensity of that, but we can have other images, even images based on the information from the set if we want to do that, to get a really good indication of what this model will look like in that particular environment. Now, another set of kind of tools that we can use for this on-target presentation are these viewport filters. So if we go to the viewport filters tab, you can see that we have a number of different options here. So we can change the gamma here in our tone mapper. If we go ahead and turn that on and select it, you can see that we can change our gamma values here. Okay. We also have the ability to work with depth of field. So if we turn on our depth of field, you can see that our focus is right about there. Okay. So we can change our focus distance till it's maybe up on the face. Okay. We can reduce the depth of field or increase the depth of field. So you can see as we increase it, more of that is in focus, whereas the tail is more out of focus. We can change the amount of blur. Okay. And this changes so interactively. So if we come here and look at the tail, you can see how this is out of focus. So, and we can have these on whenever we do our sculpting and painting. We can have all of these viewport filters turned on, depending on our hardware, what it will allow us to do. And we have two different kinds of ambient occlusion. So if we turn on our cavity occlusion, you can see it darkens up those cavities in there and gets that darkness added, adds a lot of detail in there. You can see it kind of brings those details out. Okay, this doesn't have a lot of options. It has strength, okay, sample radius, the shadow color, and a quality option here. And again, we can sculpt, and this is all interactive and updates interactively. We also have regular ambient occlusion. This has a lot more options in here that you can change. We won't go into those now, but you can really get into those occluded areas and change how those are going to look. Okay, and again, all this is to help us get as close as possible to the final outcome. Now we also have some options that are a little bit different. So we have an option for screen distance. So you can see that this is based on, it's kind of a z-depth pass here. So we've got items that are closest to us versus items that are furthest away from us. We also have the ability to look at it as a normal map. So if we wanted some kind of relief of this dinosaur that we wanted to actually apply as a texture, you know, we could output this as a normal map, bring this in, and actually have that look like it's raised up. Okay, and you can see that's interactive as I move around as well. Okay, and then we also have the options for non-photorealistic. And so we can come in here and start to play with some of the options in here if we want to get something that is not realistic. So you can go in and play around with some of these. It's definitely nice to have the occlusion on there. You can really see some of those details come out. The depth of field helps in many cases as well. But the main idea is that all of these things, along with the lighting and a number of other options, are part of this on-target presentation kind of idea. The idea that the work that we create here in Mudbox, we need to create it in an environment that's as close as possible to how it's going to be output, so that we have a better idea of what exactly that detail is going to look like in those conditions, what exactly that texture is going to look like in those conditions. Okay, so the next thing that we want to talk about is the extraction of maps. So once we've got all of our detail on here, how do we actually get that into a usable format for whatever our project is? So we'll take a look at that next.